Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is a game with a cast of quite literally thousands of unique characters, albeit with only a few dozen voice actors, that each have their own unique personalities, families, and backgrounds. Most of the people who cross our path in the Elder Scrolls V are simple folk, who are quite easy to read and understand. Farmers simply trying to provide for themselves, bandits hoping to strike rich at the expense of the innocent, or soldiers fighting for what they believe in. But then there are certain individuals we meet who aren't so easy to understand, or boast some abnormal characteristics that really distinguish themselves. And I thought today would be the perfect time to explore some of these fascinating folks. So sit back and relax as we get ready to take a look at 5 weird characters you may have missed in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Starting off, meet Kjeld the Younger. He's a Nord laborer living in the small Eastmarch mining community of Kynesgrove. He lives with his father, the community's de facto leader, Kjeld, and mother Idra. At first glance, Kjeld the Younger seems to be your typical Nord worker. But if you speak with him, one may notice something a tad off about this character.
I've never seen you before. Leave me alone. My pa runs this town, and you're going to be in big trouble if you mess with me. You don't look so tough. I'll bet I could take you.
His dialogue is rather immature and almost arrogant, sounding incredibly similar to much of what we hear the game's children say. Furthermore, a number of conversations between the man and his parents can be overheard, that all but confirm Kjeld the Younger isn't quite as grown up as his body would imply.
Mama, can we go play in the river again?
Not with all those soldiers all over the hold. Their horses can't see you, you know.
I know, but...
And you'll be trampled to death.
No way, I'm quick.
Well, why don't you be quick about finding my book that you lost?
Now, it's unclear what's actually responsible for this Nord's unique personality. At first I had reasoned it could be a psychological disorder, or something to that effect. However, of those conversations we can listen in on Kjeld have with his parents, there's a few he has with his father in particular, that suggest the man's dad doesn't really seem to care if his son is mature and respectful.
Papa, Mama's making me do kitchen work again.
And what did you say to that?
She can't tell me what to do.
There you go, son. Be your own man.
So, one could also reason that perhaps Kjeld was just never treated like an adult by his parents, and that's the reason behind his current personality. No matter, this miner is certainly among the most unusual characters in Skyrim. Next on our list, we take a trip deep below the streets of Riften. The city's sewage system, often referred to as the Ratways, serves as a sanctuary for all sorts of individuals shunned by the outside world. Whether you belong to a literal guild of thieves, or are just a petty skooma addict, it seems the tunnels underneath Riften are the closest thing to a safe haven available. Well, within the Warrens section of the sewers, a place we visit during a main quest in which we rescue Esbern, we'll find a number of small rooms. And within one of them will be a very out-of-place looking elderly man in a chef's tunic. His name is Konyaker. I think I pronounced that properly. We never actually hear it said in-game. Anyway, this strange fellow will stand up, draw an axe, and say some, well, very uncomfortable things.
Come here, come here, come here, come here! Ah, so tender. Come here, you juicy morsel.
If you linger for too long, Konyaker will attack. This man is clearly a cannibal. Even after you overpower him, which let's hope you do, you are the chosen one. It would be quite disappointing if you just got eaten down here. In his room you can find a grindstone and some questionable deer meat. That maybe isn't deer meat, if you know what I'm saying. Whatever led to this clearly deranged man hunting people down here is a question I'd very much like to answer. Was Konyaker once a normal person? Maybe he used to be a chef. That would at least explain the outfit. Or maybe he just killed one. Either way, thankfully the player can put an end to this man's unproductive dietary habits, and make these sewers just a tad safer. Coming in at number 3, we have a fascinating feline that I'm frankly shocked I haven't gotten around to covering on this channel yet. Maik the Liar. He's a Khajiit that may randomly be encountered when traversing Skyrim's roads and trails. and boy is he odd. When approached, the kitty cat will say all sorts of quotes and phrases that, one way or another, don't make any sense. Either he'll say something that's obviously untrue, something he'd have no way of knowing, or just outright speak incoherently, sometimes even breaking the fourth wall and commenting on the game itself.
Mike does not understand what is so impressive about shouting. Mike can shout whenever he wants. Mike can travel fast across the land. Some lazy types take carriages. It is all the same to Mike. Where bears? Where? Bears? Men that are bears? Dragons were never gone. They were just invisible and very, very quiet.
You can usually get him to say around 3 lines of dialogue before he gets tired and refuses to converse anymore. Now, as many of you know, Skyrim isn't Mike's first appearance in the Elder Scrolls franchise. He debuted as a character in Morrowind, where his personality was largely identical to what it is in Skyrim, though he did break the fourth wall back then a bit more often. After Tez 3, Mike found himself featured again in Oblivion.
Mike knows much, tells some. Mike knows many things others do not.
And he's even a character we can stumble upon in the Elder Scrolls Online.
"Come no closer," said the ghost, so Mike did not. But she kept saying it, wherever he went.
With all these appearances, spanning more than 1,000 years across 4 Elder Scrolls games, it's frankly a mystery how he hasn't collapsed due to old age by now. Though, clearly he doesn't seem to abide by all the rules of the Elder Scrolls universe. And there's even a quote Maik says in Skyrim that implies he actually comes from a family of Maiks, and the ones we meet in the other games may just be his ancestors.
Maik's father was also called Maik, as was Maik's father's father. At least, that is what his father said.
Whatever the explanation behind this fibbing feline's repeat appearances, he's certainly among the oddest characters in the entire universe. And I'm excited to see him again in The Elder Scrolls 6, 3 to 5 years from now. For 4th spot, upon the player's first visit to Randvaeg's Fast, an ancient tomb in Yalmarch will be attacked by a number of unique spirits, called subjugated ghosts. As they attack you, they'll apologize, saying things along the lines of, "I'm sorry, I don't want to be doing this," and "Please run away, I don't wish to hurt you." It's really unsettling. As you enter the dungeon and progress through it, more and more of these spectral beings will ambush the player, with it being unclear what evil force is compelling them to do so. Alas, toward the end of the structure, we'll discover a word wall, with a perfectly lootable looking chest right in front of it. Seems like an excellent prize that any Dragonborn would happily accept. However, upon walking up to the treasure, you'll realize all that loot was little more than bait for a trap, as the floor collapses under you and you'll fall into a cage. From here, standing before the player, licking his lips, will be the sinister man behind the army of subjugated ghosts, a Nord necromancer named Sild the Warlock. He'll waste no time, welcoming you as a participant in his sick little experiment. Surprised you didn't die by the fall, Sild will explain that as soon as he can find his magical staff, he intends to murder you to death, and have your spirit join his enslaved legions. Lucky us, Sild will have a bit of trouble finding his staff, buying much needed time for the Dovahkiin to pick the lock on the cage and confront this necromancer in combat, which you should win easily. Once he's been dealt with, Sild's journal can be picked up from a nearby table, where he documents his cruelty and nefarious goals. Apparently, he'd been kidnapping and slaying locals for years now, with no real endgame plan. He doesn't intend to use this subjugated army to conquer large portions of Skyrim or anything. He's just doing all of this for sport. He describes taking great pleasure in tormenting his captives, and overall comes across as a genuinely just evil character. I mean, at least Alduin had a reason for trying to conquer the world. He wanted more power, but Sild does his deeds simply for the fun, which quite frankly makes him a little worse in my opinion, if not a lot less effective. Within his compound, we can also see the bodies of so many of his victims, including a poor dog, as if we needed more of a reason to dislike him. So, I think it goes without saying, Sild is a truly despicable fellow, that, if you haven't already, you should definitely put an end to, and turn Sild the Warlock into Sild the Dead Leave me alone. And finally, last on our list, we have a name many players know all too well. Norfee. A Nord beggar living in the small farming village of Iverstead, Norfee was once a normal and respectable man, but he's recently gone mad following the disappearance of his sister, Rada. He now speaks of himself in the third person, and his mental state has reverted to that of a young child. It's really tragic. Norfee lives out of the ruins of his old family home. Unfortunately for him, his parents also passed away at a young age. The poor guy now has no one. Even more unsettling, someone has paid the Dark Brotherhood to assassinate him, and will have to kill the beggar as a part of one of the Brotherhood's miscellaneous missions. It's never revealed who wanted Norfee taken out, and why. It could be someone just felt sorry for the poor fellow and wanted to put him out of his misery, but one theory suggests there may have been some even more nefarious motivations at play here. As mentioned, Norfee's sister Rada recently went missing, and as a part of a miscellaneous quest, we can locate her body, which will be underneath a lake, and return a locket of hers back to her poor brother, to give him some closure. Some suspect that Rada was killed by another one of Iverstead's residents, and that same individual may also now want to take Norfee out of the picture, so that he stops asking questions and attracting attention. Others argue that maybe Norfee himself murdered his sister, and this whole crazy persona is just an act to divert attention. Perhaps one of the town's residents has caught on and taken justice into their own hands. There's a number of possible reasons one of this town's citizens might want to see Norfee suffer the same fate as his sister. But one thing is certain, he's definitely among Skyrim's most memorable and oddest faces. And with that, we are going to wrap up the top 5 weirdest characters in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Thanks for watching, everyone. Which of these fellows did you personally find to be the most fascinating? And who deserved a spot on this list that I left out? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.